When you step into solitude, you step away from the masks that society asks you to wear. In the company of others, it is easy to bend, to please, to adjust yourself in ways that do not always serve your spirit. But when you are alone, there is no audience to perform for, no expectations to meet, no judgments to fear. It is in that stillness that you begin to recognize who you truly are beneath the surface. The quiet space shows you your unfiltered emotions, your raw thoughts, and your hidden desires. Many run from solitude because they are afraid of this encounter, but the truth is facing yourself is the first step toward authentic strength. Alone, you cannot escape yourself, and that confrontation is where growth begins. The world constantly pushes us to stay connected, to be visible, to prove ourselves through interactions and relationships. But this endless connection often disconnects us from the essence of who we are. Solitude cuts through the noise. It gives you a chance to observe your inner landscape without interruption. In that silence, you hear the whispers of your intuition, whispers often drowned out by external voices. It is there that you begin to see the difference between what you genuinely want and what you have been conditioned to desire. Alone, clarity is born. You see your strengths without exaggeration and your weaknesses without shame. Solitude doesn't inflate the ego, nor does it diminish the spirit. It balances both. It invites you to accept your imperfections while recognizing your inherent worth. In solitude, time slows down, and you start to notice details about yourself that you previously ignored. You may realize that many of your actions were guided by the need for validation rather than the pursuit of truth. You may notice patterns, how you react to pain, how you seek comfort, how you avoid challenges. Alone, these truths cannot be hidden behind distractions. Solitude acts like a mirror, reflecting both your light and your shadow. This reflection can feel uncomfortable, but it is necessary. Without facing your shadow, you can never truly claim your light. The beauty of solitude lies in its honesty. It does not flatter you, it reveals you. And when you accept what it shows, you begin to carry yourself with a calm confidence that no one else can give or take away. Solitude is not loneliness. Loneliness is the absence of others, but solitude is the presence of yourself. This distinction is vital. When you learn to enjoy your own presence, you begin to discover that you are never truly alone. There is an inner companion within you. Your awareness, your consciousness, that has always been there, waiting for your attention. Solitude nurtures this relationship. It teaches you to listen to your inner voice, to trust your instincts, and to find peace in your own company. In this way, solitude transforms from something you fear into something you value deeply. It becomes a sanctuary where you can recharge, reflect, and reconnect with your essence before stepping back into the world. Most people avoid solitude because silence feels heavy. Without the noise of conversations, entertainment, or distractions, unresolved emotions rise to the surface. Fear, regret, doubt. These shadows often appear when the mind is quiet. But instead of running from them, solitude invites you to sit with them, to observe them without judgment. This process builds resilience. You begin to understand that emotions are like clouds. They pass when you do not resist them. By embracing silence, you learn that discomfort is not your enemy, it is your teacher. The more time you spend alone, the more fearless you become in facing the inner storms. Solitude reveals your inner strength not by removing challenges, but by helping you stand unshaken in their presence. In solitude, you also discover your creative spirit. When external noise fades, the imagination wakes. Many great works of art, philosophy, and innovation were born from long hours of solitude. It is because creativity requires space, and space is found in silence. Alone, you are free to dream without judgment, to experiment without fear, to explore without limits. You hear the voice of inspiration speaking softly from within. Solitude allows ideas to flow like water, unblocked by the expectations of others. This is why those who embrace solitude often appear more grounded and more original. They are guided not by trends, but by inner vision. In your quiet moments, you too can access this deep reservoir of creativity and wisdom. The journey into solitude is also a journey into acceptance. When you spend time alone, you learn to embrace the reality that no one can fill the emptiness inside you except yourself. External relationships can enrich your life, but they cannot replace the relationship you have with your own soul. Solitude teaches you that your worth is not dependent on others' approval, and your peace is not dictated by others' presence. You realize that your life is not a performance for the world, but a path for your own growth. With this understanding, you stop chasing acceptance outside and begin cultivating fulfillment within. That is the moment you shift from dependence to independence, from insecurity to inner strength. Spending time in solitude also sharpens your awareness of the present moment. Without distractions pulling your attention in countless directions, you start to feel life more deeply. You notice the rhythm of your breath, the stillness between sounds, the subtle sensations of being alive. These simple experiences, often overlooked in the chaos of daily living, remind you of the richness of existence. Solitude grounds you in the here and now. It reminds you that peace is not somewhere outside. It is found in the simplicity of presence. This heightened awareness doesn't just stay in solitude. It follows you back into the world, allowing you to face challenges with calmness and respond to life with wisdom rather than impulsiveness. Another gift of solitude is the ability to reset. Just as the body requires sleep to recover, the spirit requires solitude to restore balance. Without moments of aloneness, the mind becomes cluttered, the heart becomes restless, and the soul becomes tired. Solitude cleanses these burdens. It is like pressing pause on the chaos of the world to remember what truly matters. Alone, you shed unnecessary worries and rediscover simplicity. You return to your essence, a place of clarity and calmness. This renewal empowers you to step back into the noise of life with greater focus, energy, and purpose. Solitude is not an escape but a preparation. It equips you to face the world with greater strength. Ultimately, solitude reveals your true self because it strips away illusions. Without others around, you no longer live for their approval, their validation, or their applause. You face your fears, you embrace your truth, and you discover that everything you need was always within you. Solitude transforms fear into courage, confusion into clarity, and dependence into independence. It teaches you that being alone is not a weakness, but a profound strength. When you can walk with yourself in peace, you can walk with anyone without losing your center. Solitude is not about isolation. It is about liberation. It is where the journey to authenticity begins, and once you taste its depth, you understand why it is one of the greatest teachers of life. Freedom is not given by others. It is discovered within yourself through independence. Many live their lives bound by invisible chains, the need for approval, the fear of rejection, the habit of leaning on others for strength. True independence is the breaking of these chains. It is not about cutting people off, but about no longer being enslaved by their opinions or expectations. When you stand on your own feet, you learn that your peace does not depend on anyone's presence and your worth is not measured by anyone's validation. Independence gives you the courage to walk your own path, even if it means walking alone. And in that walk, you realize that real freedom has nothing to do with how many people surround you, but everything to do with how deeply you trust yourself. Dependence creates weakness, but independence builds resilience. When you constantly rely on others for emotional support, financial security, or direction in life, you unknowingly give away your power. What happens if they leave, fail, or change? Your foundation collapses and you feel lost. But when you cultivate independence, you become unshakable. You no longer fear loss because your stability comes from within, not from what others provide. Independence does not mean rejecting help. It means that your survival, peace, and growth are not conditioned on it. It gives you the strength to face uncertainty with confidence. Life becomes lighter because you are not burdened by constant expectations from others. Independence transforms you into someone who can walk through storms without waiting for someone else to hold the umbrella. Independence also sharpens your decision making. When you depend on others, your choices often reflect their desires rather than your own truth. You begin to live for their comfort, not your growth. But when you cultivate independence, your decisions flow from clarity and self-trust. You ask yourself, what do I truly want? What aligns with my values? This self-reliance creates freedom. You are no longer pulled by the tides of opinions, but guided by the compass of your inner wisdom. Independence allows you to shape your life without fear of judgment, because you understand that no one else is responsible for your happiness but you. With this mindset, every choice becomes a step toward authentic living, and every step deepens your freedom. Many fear independence because it seems lonely, but in reality, independence brings peace. Dependence creates constant worry. What if the people you rely on withdraw their support? What if they change? Independence dissolves this fear. When your well-being is not tied to another person's actions, you experience a calm confidence that nothing external can shake. You stop clinging to people, and instead, you begin to appreciate them without attachment. Independence does not isolate you, it liberates you. It allows you to connect with others out of love, not out of need. Relationships become healthier when they are not rooted in dependence, but in mutual respect. Freedom, then, is not in holding tightly, but in standing firmly, knowing that you are complete on your own. Independence is also the foundation of dignity. A person who relies too much on others often compromises their values just to keep support flowing. They accept mistreatment, remain silent in injustice, or sacrifice their authenticity. But when you are independent, you refuse to be controlled by such conditions. You no longer bow to what diminishes you. Independence gives you the strength to say no when necessary, and the courage to walk away from what does not serve your spirit. This is dignity, the ability to stand tall unbroken by fear of losing people or resources. Independence teaches you that survival is possible without dependence. And once you know this, you stop allowing anyone to treat you as less than who you are. Freedom is found in this unshakable dignity. Independence strengthens your relationship with challenges. When dependent, challenges feel like unbearable weights because you expect others to carry them for you. But when independent, you view challenges as opportunities for growth. You understand that no one else can live your life, no one else can fight your battles, no one else can walk your path. Independence teaches you to rely on your own strength, sharpening both your resilience and your courage. Each time you overcome something on your own, you gain a deeper sense of freedom. You no longer fear life's unpredictability because you know you can adapt. This inner confidence is priceless. It cannot be bought, borrowed, or given by another person. It can only be forged in the fire of self-reliance. True independence also teaches discipline. When you no longer depend on others to push you forward, you realize that responsibility rests entirely on your shoulders. This awareness builds self-control, consistency, and strength of character. You wake up not because someone expects you to, but because you hold yourself accountable. This discipline is liberating because it gives you mastery over your own life. You stop waiting for rescue and instead become your own guide. Independence frees you from the cycle of procrastination, excuses, and dependency, replacing it with self-leadership. In this way, independence transforms into empowerment. You are no longer a passive observer of your life, but the active creator of it. Another gift of independence is the ability to love more purely. When you depend on someone, your love is mixed with fear, the fear of losing them, the fear of being abandoned. But when you are independent, love becomes free. You do not cling, control, or demand. Instead, you share from fullness. Independence removes the desperation from relationships and replaces it with genuine connection. You love not because you need the other to complete you, but because you want to walk beside them. This is the essence of freedom in love, the ability to give without attachment and to receive without dependence. Independence transforms relationships from cages into wings, allowing both people to grow without chains. Independence also reveals your true potential. When you stop leaning on others for every step, you are forced to awaken the strength within you. Talents you never knew existed surface. Courage you thought you lacked emerges. The more independent you become, the more you realize how much power you carry. Dependence makes you underestimate yourself. Independence shows you the vastness of your capacity. This realization is liberating. You no longer doubt whether you can handle life. You know you can. Each victory, no matter how small, becomes proof that freedom is not a gift from the outside world, but a fire already burning within you. Ultimately, freedom is not about escaping responsibility or living without others. True freedom is about walking with others without being chained to them. It is about choosing connection rather than clinging, giving love without fear, and standing strong even when the world shifts. Independence is not selfish. It is self-honoring. It teaches you that the most powerful relationship you will ever have is with yourself. Once you become independent, you are no longer controlled by fear, by loss, or by the weight of expectation. You are free because you belong fully to yourself. This is the essence of independence, the discovery that freedom has always been within your grasp, waiting for you to claim it by standing firmly on your own. The modern world thrives on distraction. Notifications, conversations, advertisements, and endless information constantly pull your mind in different directions. Surrounded by this noise, clarity becomes difficult, and focus feels almost impossible. Yet, when you step into solitude, all of this noise begins to fade. In the silence of being alone, distractions lose their grip on you. What seemed urgent now reveals itself as unimportant, and what truly matters rises to the surface. Solitude is like clearing the clutter from a room. You suddenly see the space that was always there but hidden beneath chaos. Alone, you realize how much energy was wasted on meaningless interruptions. This stillness gives you the opportunity to redirect your focus, to gather your scattered thoughts, and to concentrate on what truly nourishes your spirit. Distractions vanish, and in their absence, truth and clarity appear. Most distractions are not external objects, they are internal disturbances amplified by external noise. You are distracted not only by phones, media, and people, but also by the restless mind constantly seeking stimulation. Solitude exposes this restlessness. When you are alone, you can no longer hide behind endless activity. You begin to see how much of your time is spent avoiding stillness. At first, this can feel uncomfortable, like withdrawal from an addiction. But the longer you stay with solitude, the quieter the mind becomes. Thoughts lose their urgency, emotions settle, and your awareness deepens. Distractions are not defeated by force, they dissolve naturally when you give your mind space to rest. In solitude, you discover that the silence you once feared is actually the cure for the constant agitation of a distracted life. Distractions are powerful because they promise escape. They offer momentary relief from boredom, pain, or self-reflection. But the price of distraction is heavy. It keeps you from growth, clarity, and inner peace. Solitude reveals this cost. Alone, you notice how distractions lose their shine when no one is there to validate them. Scrolling endlessly, seeking attention, or filling silence with noise suddenly feels empty. This realization is liberating. It shows you that the mind has been trained to seek comfort in distractions, but comfort is not the same as fulfillment. Solitude helps you break this cycle. By sitting with yourself, without reaching for constant stimulation, you begin to see that fulfillment is found not in escape, but in presence. Distractions crumble when you learn to enjoy the stillness of simply being. In solitude, you become more aware of how distractions scatter your energy. Every time you shift from one task to another, or from one thought to another, you lose focus and waste precious energy. This constant fragmentation leaves you drained. But when distractions disappear, your energy gathers like water flowing into a single stream. Alone, without interruptions, you are able to immerse yourself fully in what you are doing. Whether reflecting, creating, or simply breathing, your focus sharpens. You discover that a calm, undistracted mind is far more powerful than a busy, restless one. This ability to concentrate deeply is not only practical but transformative. It shows you that solitude is not emptiness, it is a force that gathers your scattered pieces and makes you whole again. The greatest distraction of all is comparison. Surrounded by others, you easily measure your life against theirs, their achievements, possessions, or appearances. This constant comparison steals your joy and disturbs your peace. Solitude dissolves this distraction. When you are alone, there is no one to compare yourself with. You begin to see yourself not through the lens of competition, but through the truth of who you are. This shift is powerful. It frees you from envy and insecurity, allowing you to value your journey as unique. Solitude strips away the illusion that you must be like others to be worthy. It teaches you that fulfillment is not found in comparison, but in authenticity. In silence, the distraction of measuring your worth against the world disappears, and self-acceptance begins to bloom. Distractions are often disguised as responsibilities. Endless tasks, commitments, and obligations keep people busy, but not always purposeful. Solitude exposes the difference between business and meaning. When alone, you begin to ask, are these actions truly necessary? Do they align with my purpose, or are they simply noise? Many discover that they are spending their lives chasing distractions disguised as duties. Solitude gives you the space to evaluate and prioritize. By cutting away what is unnecessary, you reclaim your time and focus. You learn to choose deliberately rather than react compulsively. This process is freeing because it reminds you that life is too precious to be consumed by meaningless distractions. Alone, you refine your vision and commit to what truly matters. When distractions disappear, creativity awakens. The mind, once burdened by noise and interruptions, finds the space to explore, imagine, and create. Solitude nurtures this process. Thinkers, artists, and leaders throughout history have all turned to solitude to birth their greatest ideas. It is in silence that the imagination speaks, because creativity requires depth, not noise. When you step away from distractions, your thoughts become clear, and connections appear that were previously hidden. Solitude becomes fertile soil where new ideas can take root. This is why people often find breakthroughs not in chaos, but in calmness. Without distractions, your inner world becomes a source of inspiration, and you realize that solitude is not a prison, but a workshop for creation and innovation. Distractions also prevent self-awareness. As long as you are busy reacting to the outside world, you avoid facing your inner world. Solitude removes the shield. It forces you to look inward, to see your fears, desires, and patterns clearly. At first, this can be uncomfortable because self-awareness reveals both your strengths and your weaknesses. But without this awareness, growth is impossible. Solitude helps you accept yourself as you are, without distraction masking the truth. In this acceptance, healing begins. You learn to forgive yourself, to adjust your path, and to cultivate habits that align with your true self. The absence of distraction makes room for self-discovery, and self-discovery is the foundation of inner freedom. In solitude, distractions disappear not only from the mind, but also from the heart. Many hearts are restless because they are tied to constant attachment. What others think, how others act, whether others stay or leave. This emotional distraction creates unnecessary suffering. But when alone, you realize that your heart is calmer than you believed. You see that peace is not dependent on others, but arises from within when distractions are removed. Solitude teaches you to untangle your emotions from external noise and to find stability in your own presence. This stability is freedom, the ability to feel complete without chasing constant validation. Without distractions pulling at your heart, you discover a deeper kind of peace, one that endures even in the chaos of life. Ultimately, solitude is the space where distractions lose their power. The noise of the world, the comparisons, the endless tasks, and the restless mind all fade into silence. What remains is clarity, presence, and truth. Solitude does not make life easier by removing challenges. It makes life clearer by removing what is unnecessary. It allows you to see where your energy belongs and where it is wasted. In this clarity, you find strength, purpose, and freedom. Distractions vanish, and you awaken to the realization that everything you were seeking in noise was already waiting for you in silence. Solitude is not emptiness, it is fullness without clutter. It is the ground where distractions dissolve and the true self emerges. Every seed begins its journey in darkness, buried beneath the soil where no eyes can see it. In that hidden place it begins to transform. Slowly, silently, without applause or recognition, it grows roots that anchor it deeply. This is the nature of growth. It often happens away from the noise of the world, in moments of isolation. Human beings are no different. The greatest transformations rarely take place when surrounded by distractions and constant company. They happen when you are alone, facing your thoughts, your fears, and your potential. Isolation strips away external influences and forces you to look inward. This inner confrontation becomes the fertile ground where real growth begins. Just like the seed, you must endure a season of solitude if you wish to rise stronger into the light. Growth is not instant, it is cultivated in quiet, unseen spaces. Isolation creates a sacred pause in life, a space where reflection becomes possible. When surrounded by others, you are often pulled into their expectations, desires, and opinions. Your own voice becomes faint beneath the noise, but in isolation that voice grows louder. You begin to see clearly what matters to you, not what others want from you. This clarity is the foundation of growth. Without the influence of external pressure, you can examine your choices, your values, and your goals honestly. Growth requires honesty, and honesty requires solitude. In isolation, you can admit where you have been running from yourself, where you have been settling for less, and where you need to rise higher. This awareness is not always comfortable, but it is essential. For growth does not come from comfort. It comes from the courage to face truth when you are alone. Growth also requires patience, and isolation teaches patience better than anything else. Alone, time moves differently. There is no rush to meet others' schedules or fulfill others' demands. Instead, you begin to understand the natural rhythm of life. Just as the seed cannot be forced to grow faster, you learn that transformation cannot be rushed. Isolation teaches you endurance, to sit with discomfort, to wait without fear, and to trust the unseen process. Many give up on their growth because they expect instant results. But true strength is cultivated over time, in moments when nothing seems to be happening. In solitude, you realize that growth is often invisible before it becomes visible. Just because progress is not seen does not mean it is not happening. Isolation builds this trust, showing you that patience itself is a form of strength, and that every silent effort contributes to future growth. Another gift of isolation is resilience. When you walk alone, you are forced to face difficulties without leaning on constant external support. At first, this feels heavy, but over time, it strengthens your spirit. You learn that you are capable of enduring more than you imagined. Each challenge faced alone becomes proof of your inner strength. This resilience cannot be borrowed from others. It must be forged in your own solitude. Like a tree that develops strong roots by standing through storms, you too develop strength by enduring trials without always relying on others. Growth happens in isolation because it teaches you to stand firm in yourself. When you emerge from such seasons, You are no longer fragile, dependent, or easily shaken. You carry within you the quiet confidence of someone who has been tested and strengthened in silence. Isolation also awakens your creativity and inner vision. Surrounded by constant activity, your mind is often too crowded to explore deeper ideas. But in solitude, creativity has space to breathe. Without distractions, your imagination begins to expand, and solutions arise to challenges that once seemed overwhelming. Growth is not only about becoming stronger, it is also about becoming more creative, more resourceful, and more open to new possibilities. Isolation nurtures this expansion. Many great innovations and works of art were born from long hours of solitude. The mind, when free from external noise, becomes fertile ground for inspiration. Growth happens here, in the stillness where new possibilities reveal themselves. Solitude is not empty. It is rich with the potential to create, to imagine, and to shape a future that reflects your true essence. Spiritual growth especially thrives in isolation. When alone, you have the chance to connect with something deeper than daily distractions. In silence, you begin to sense the presence of your inner spirit, something unchanging, timeless, and peaceful. This connection cannot be discovered in constant noise. It requires stillness. Growth in isolation often feels like a deepening into this inner awareness where you realize that you are not just your roles, titles, or possessions. You are something greater, something beyond the external world. This spiritual awareness grounds you, bringing peace that remains even when external circumstances shift. Growth, then, is not only about external achievement, but also about internal awakening. And isolation provides the sacred environment where this awakening can unfold naturally. In isolation, you also learn self-discipline. Without others watching you, motivating you, or expecting something from you, the responsibility falls entirely on your shoulders. Growth requires this discipline. Alone, you must choose to keep moving forward, to stay committed, and to resist the temptation of distraction. This kind of discipline is deeper than external motivation. It comes from within. It is the discipline of someone who has decided to honor their own journey, even when no one is applauding. Growth happens in isolation because it tests your consistency. Can you keep going when no one sees your effort? Can you remain true to your path without external rewards? These questions refine you. They shape you into someone who acts not for recognition, but for authenticity. That is true growth. Self-leadership born in the quiet of solitude. Isolation also helps you detach from unhealthy attachments. When you are constantly surrounded by people, places, or habits, it is easy to lose yourself in them. You may cling to relationships out of fear, or to routines out of comfort, even if they no longer serve your growth. Isolation creates distance, and in that distance, perspective. You begin to see what truly nourishes you and what drains you. This clarity gives you the strength to let go of attachments that limit your potential. Growth often requires letting go, and solitude makes this process possible. Alone, you realize that your value is not tied to what you hold on to, but to who you are when everything else is stripped away. In this detachment you find freedom, and in freedom, growth flourishes. The journey of isolation also teaches humility. Growth is not always about rising higher, sometimes it is about becoming quieter, softer, more understanding. Alone, you see your limitations more clearly. You recognize mistakes, confront weaknesses, and admit truths you once ignored. This humility does not diminish you, it deepens you. It reminds you that growth is not about perfection, but about authenticity. In isolation, you become less concerned with proving yourself and more focused on understanding yourself. This shift humbles the ego, but strengthens the soul. Growth happens when you embrace both your strengths and weaknesses without denial. Isolation strips away pretense and teaches you to grow from truth, not illusion. Ultimately, growth happens in isolation because solitude is where transformation begins. Just as the seed must break in darkness before it blooms in light, you too must pass through seasons of solitude to awaken your full potential. Isolation is not punishment, it is preparation. It shapes you, strengthens you, and equips you for the life ahead. When you emerge, you carry wisdom, resilience, and clarity that cannot be gained in constant company. Growth is not always loud, visible, or celebrated. More often, it is quiet, steady, and unseen until the moment it blossoms. This is why isolation is so powerful. It gives you the sacred space to grow into the person you were always meant to be. And when you return to the world, you carry within you the strength of someone who has been transformed in silence.